Happy almost Wednesday.
Almost. Another
How
week, another shit show.
yeah, so I've been traveling to the tropical paradise of Los Angeles, staying with a college friend, Greg, and his wife, because that's how you refer to people who you didn't know in college as their spouse, but Marisa. And been having a great time and honestly very happily somewhat disconnected from local stuff for a couple days and national stuff only slightly because everything filters through. So let's talk about what's been going on since we last talked about things in the Portland scene. What's on your mind?
Oh god, no.
A small whimper and cry. All right. Thank you for joining the Progress Portland podcast. You can find anyway. Yeah, okay.
This Saturday, city council had a work session,
Mm.
and it was practically all day. So I had tuned in the morning for about 45 minutes, and then I had to turn it off
Oh
because
wow.
I
Okay.
was I was eating breakfast, and I went
And you
about
didn't
my
want it to
day.
ruin breakfast.
No, but I did
Okay.
tune back in for the last, like, hour and a half, and during that point, they were working on just listing things that they would like to see in a city that would make it thrive, and, that's when you're just listing things like fix the potholes or figure out the rates for utilities that are more fair, like, how can we try and do this so some folks aren't being hit harder? Make sure the parks are all clean and all the facilities are working, like, very general things.
Okay. All right. Blue
And
sky. Like
all
it.
all all good things. Nothing really landed in the world of politics, even, like, make sure businesses can thrive. Yes, we all want this, and here's where it's one of those things where it's like, yes, we all want the same shit. We want safe streets, we want people housed, we want people going out and having a good time, we want public spaces where we can hang out, we want coffee shops that might be open past 5 o'clock. Like, we want all these things. So then the
Right.
question is,
Right.
how do you get there? And that's where the paths always differ. But it was good to see 12 people, I would say for the most part, in agreement. And it's like, man, this city council is doing stuff
It can
that
do
they,
it.
yes. So that was good. That's not really a kvetch. That was good.
No, no, and that's good to hear. I think blue sky ideation is a great approach to things. Like you can sit there and find common ground and then say, okay, let's parking lot the stuff that we know already has processes, but what do we do for livability in general, right? What are the top three things? Okay, where can we find common ground to work on those three things and start building it out rather than coming at each other from whatever ideological ideological side. I mean, everybody in Portland's pretty much a liberal. Sorry for, the progressives that will bristle at that, but, I did mention, and this will piss some people off, maybe we'll get some people not coming on the podcast, but I did refer to, the DSA as the HOA of progressives earlier, and, and everybody's like,
Is there context for that?
no, no. I mean, there is, but I'm not sharing it.
Okay.
But anyway, no, I think again, like you said, everybody wants the same stuff. For the most part, everybody's coming at it at different angles, and when you come at it from a collaborative standpoint, finding the common ground and start saying, okay, how do we get there and start making some commitments and concessions, you can do it. But if you're posturing or if you're being obstinate, you never get anywhere. And
Mhm.
I even argue for the last year for all the quote unquote dysfunction and screaming that some people on some other particular podcasts have been doing. This city council's gotten a lot more done than any previous city council in the almost 30 years that I've lived in Portland, right?
Yes.
Including reshaping itself twice. I mean, come on. So there's a lot of positive stuff going on. But when people are sniping at each other, it's not it'll never be positive. So the shade throwing needs to end. So the listening session
Work
the
session.
work session was all day Saturday.
Yeah, I think it started around 8:30ish. I didn't log in exactly at that time, but it ended at 4.
Wow,
It
okay. And
yeah.
this was to set what was the agenda or what was the
It was
context?
mostly like a priority session. I mean, since we're in a deficit, part of it is like, what are the
Okay.
needs? Where do they fall? And then like, how can we try and hit all these goals, or at least some of them, and figure out where the money's going to come from and what else we're going to do. So this was outside of all the money they keep finding in couch cushions in people's pockets, and
Buried in the backyard in
whatever.
a jar
Right.
of
Or
previous directors. Yeah, okay.
exactly. So this was more just it was a really good, like, what are the priorities? And this is
Yeah,
when you find out that for a party of 12 that sometimes feels like it's party lines, but it's really not. Sometimes it's honestly experience lines. And I'm not saying like, "Oh, I've been around 40 years or 20 years." It's I'm talking about like sometimes gender experience, racial experience, class experience. You see that the priorities pretty much do line up the same. It's just who's got the loudest voice or who's got what council's ear. And
right.
and as much as there are some folks on council that it was like, "Man, why are you running again?" Not gonna name names, but anyway,
Right,
you know,
right, right.
I will say
Well,
for a party of 12, we have a very fair cross section of what this city's political vibe is. We do run from a moderate conservative to a very liberal, radical spectrum. And this is why shit's getting done the way it is getting done, which is much more positive than the prior city council where I would just sit there and mock all day.
well, it's interesting because I got a bit of a lesson down here from Marisa at Los Angeles. So they have a city council. I think it was 15 people, 18 people. No, I don't recall, but and a weak mayor, theoretically. But because there's 88 little cities instead of 4 districts,
Mhm,
they have an interim layer of like, town councils that are elected, but volunteer, that filter up from their constituents into the different counselors out there, and I thought that was a really fascinating approach to do things because neighborhood associations used to act as, depending which neighborhood association it was, and there was a wide spectrum of just people who are just business interests versus really more communal driven, right? But we're the feeding tubes. Yeah, let's go with feeding tubes into the previous council, right? The commission structure, to understand what's going on. And there it is really challenging. We also had this discussion that the city councilors down here and the city councilors back in Portland work their fucking asses off, and so does the
mhm,
staff, right? And they get a lot of abuse, but they also are out there trying to do good work, for the most part. And there's a disconnect, though, that you can only meet with so many people, right? You can only have so many town halls, and only so many people are going to hear about it. So back in my head, I'm rolling around. If we had some community members and some community leadership and other folks to kind of reshape how we do neighborhood association stuff that isn't exclusionary, which many of them were, especially in the wealthier
mhm,
neighborhoods, as a feeding tube into the district counselors, as well as individuals who do have the time to show up and everything else, bring in an amalgam of all the different community organizations that are already out there, Cully and Apano and Naya and all the other ones. That would be a really interesting approach to better agenda setting than what I think a lot of the personality driven agenda setting, legit or not, starts creating these clashes. So not that more layers of things are generally a good idea, but when you have personalities clashing that obscures the actual work that needs to get done, having more legitimacy on what your agenda is can be really helpful if done in the right way.
mhm.
So, some thoughts about where this could evolve to as we get the basics figured out, which it sounds like yesterday, Saturday session was maybe trying to accomplish. So,
I think so. I think it
kudos.
was yeah, I think it was to make sure that there is some common ground moving forward, and,
Oh my
we'll see what
god, are we gonna
happens.
have to call this a Wednesday kudos instead of the Wednesday kvetch?
No, there's always something to kvetch about. I
Okay, cool,
mean
thank you. I just if I'm gonna be irascible, don't mellow my harsh, man.
I mean, neighborhood associations, the hardest thing about them is sometimes even knowing they even exist or having the motivation to actually show up to
Yeah,
them because it's a lot, it is actually a lot for folks to volunteer sometimes. It's like you're running around, you're working, you're doing this thing, you're tired after an 8-hour day of working. You have your family, you have your stuff to do. Maybe you really just want to veg out and watch TV and eat dinner, and it's like it takes a lot. And if you're already volunteer somewhere else or you have a job that is incredibly emotionally draining, finding that other hour to dedicate once a month is sometimes very, very hard, and I
yeah,
get it.
and
You
even
know
understanding all the issues in and out, it's part of but I feel like I'm just repeating a lot of conversations I've had over the last day or 2 down here
Mhm,
learning things, but, there's what I try to always remind myself and everyone else is that folks who are leaning into all these policies and agendas and issues, we're being in an echo chamber isn't helpful, right? We understand like I understood the commission form of government and the transition to representative probably as well as anyone, and I was fucking confused, right? So how does the average person who doesn't have time for this shit, that isn't living in it week by week or day by day, figure it out? And we still survived it for mostly. I think there might have been a couple people who were like, "Fuck Portland, I'm moving," and I'm like, "Okay, good, see ya. Go go to Iowa, Idaho, not Iowa." Anyway,
they could go to
um,
Iowa too.
they could go to Iowa too. I like Iowa. I wouldn't wish some of the jerks on Iowa, but Idaho, I have friends in Idaho. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking about that now. But anyway, just if you're mired in the details day to day and you're thinking about it day to day, when you go out to talk to people about complex issues and problems and they just want a fucking pothole fixed, there's a huge disconnect there, right? If they can even show up to talk to you, you're working in different realms. And some of our council people are really good at breaking down those realms. Annalita and her Instagram snippets are phenomenal explainers of complex things. I
Mhm.
wish everybody had that kinda skill set, right? But even if you sit there and you're learning from it, it's still a huge lift to, like, incorporate it and then try to form, opinions about it that are going to help move things forward, or even having the time to say, "Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. I have to work a 3rd shift this
Mhm.
week because can't afford my electric," right? So,
Well, and
how
also,
you
isn't that
dial that
kind of the
all
point?
together. What was that?
Yeah. Oh, I was gonna say, isn't that kind of the point sometimes of making sure that authoritarians stay in authority is that you're so busy trying to get your daily needs met, you
Yes.
you don't pay attention.
Yeah, it's working as intended, right? So, and that's why some of the populist stuff that Mitch Green is doing and Halita and, for all intents and purposes, most of the no, all of the, Progress Portland endorsed candidates did a great job, guys, getting elected. Thank you. That got elected, are have a populist approach to things where they are trying to engage wherever they can and bring things forward that are livability issues, right? I just would love to see how to get the other candidates that we didn't endorse or interview or not always agree with or like or want to have a beer with, how they get into the fold in a way that doesn't feel terribly confrontational like I just made it. So,
Well,
and I don't dislike any of them. I think everybody has good intentions. We talked about this last week without going into details, but,
see, you're nicer than me. No.
I am nicer than you, I'm kinder than you. I don't know if I'm nicer.
I
Ni
don't
ni
think I'm unkind though, but yeah.
No, no, you're not unkind, you're just not nice,
Yeah,
and that's
that's
a
fine.
good that's fine, right?
Yeah.
We were literally having that conversation earlier too. New Yorkers are not nice, but they are kind, and
Yes,
then
I
you
mean,
go
I think I told you I spent Saturday about it felt like forever, but it turned out it was only like 7 minutes, running almost a mile all over my neighborhood to catch a dog that
yeah.
had been hit by a car, and I was sprinting. You would think I was in a race. Like, my watch, my heartbeat, everything just was like, "Oh, you're exercising," and I'm like, "No, I'm trying to catch a dog."
No, try to catch a dog, where's the button for that?
Yeah, and,
Um,
like, no, it wasn't he alright, here's a perfect example of being kind but not nice. Running down Northeast Broadway, dogs, he dog wasn't, like, totally taking off, but definitely jogging and, like, would stop, and then I'd stop and see if I could call it to me, and then it would kinda, like, take off again. People were like, "Is that your dog?" And I was like, "No, mind your business, stop the dog."
right, help out, stop asking stupid fucking
And
questions.
as I'm running to catch up with the dog, because the dog's always, like, a half block ahead of me, and I'm on the other side of the street to not freak it out, I'm yelling, "Stop that dog, block the dog." And people are like, "Huh? Is that your dog?" And I'm like, "Mind your business, stop the dog. Who cares if it's my dog? Stop the dog, it's got no leash, it's totally scared, we don't know where it's going. Like, we can
Yeah.
talk logistics later."
Exactly. Just let's help the injured dog. Ah,
Yes.
that should be someone's campaign slogan. "Fuck being nice, let's help the injured dog." Let's help the injured city.
And then the other night, so I did get out of the house a little bit this weekend. Um, Picked up some food to go with a friend of mine. We're walking back to her apartment because we were gonna watch, How to Get to Heaven from Belfast.
Okay.
And I don't know if you've noticed, but no one in this town drives around with their headlights on at night if they have to manually turn it on. So, oh, now we've entered the kvetching session. Um,
No,
so
no, I literally had this conversation also, but please continue. Yeah.
see, this is how I know you're from New York. So we both point, and my friend does this, which usually means turn on your light. And I'm just pointing, and and I'm start yelling like, "Your lights, your lights." The lady in the car waves, and it's like, "Bitch, I ain't waving at you. We
Turn
ain't
on your fucking
friends."
lights.
Yes, exactly. Turn on. So then she rolls down the window, and she's like, "What?" And I just yelled, "Turn on your fucking headlights. What the fuck is wrong with you?"
Um, on the trip to the airport, I took a ride share and we talked about because I did Lyft and Uber. Actually, I don't think I did Uber, just Lyft and Amazon Flex for months to supplement income between jobs. And driving is a fucking nightmare in Portland, but a lot of it is because like if they have Portland plates and it's definitely a Portland car, they're probably high. Like they got stoned before they got in the car, and that's I mean, some people can drive fine, but you forget to turn on your fucking lights. Or you turn on the left-hand blinker to go right, or you're
Okay.
at that four-way stop where 3 hours later people are still waving each other on and I'm ready to drive over top of someone, right? But then you get the really angry, aggressive people that might come from a state that I'm currently in, so I'm not gonna mention it and or from Washington, and they're aggravated. They want you to get the fuck out of the way. So do I, but they're just going to go around you,
Mhm.
or they're just going to ride your ass like that's going to help somebody going slow move faster. That's always a thing. Or perhaps they're not smoking weed, but maybe did a hit a meth or two before they got in the car to make sure they can get where they want efficiently, right? And none of those things are helpful either for driving. So you have the stoners on one side, you have the tweakers on the other, then you just have rude people in the middle, and it's just kind of like, fuck you all, get out of my fucking way. You're welcome. That's my TED talk that was absolutely fucking pointless. Yeah, I anyway, that was pointless, wasn't it? I had
You've
no
got
point other than
yeah,
everybody's
yeah.
in my way. Is that the only point I made?
Yeah, so,
Okay.
well, the point is you're not as kind as you think. No, I'm
I really am not, no. I mean, I am to a point, but I'm a New Yorker, bad bagels, bad pizza, and bad drivers. None of it's fucking okay.
Mhm. Yep.
Just go out of business, get out of my way. Just let good drivers and good bagels and pizza come fill those gaps. So, what's coming up this week?
What's going on this week?
What's coming up
Uh,
that we need to be focused on? There is a
City council, of course.
city council. I don't know what's on the agenda. I haven't been dialed in, which I'm grateful for. A Portland Committee on Community Engaged Policing is having their full committee meeting. I don't know that I've looked at the agenda or if it's posted yet. So,
Is
but it
that
wasn't.
Wednesday?
It's Wednesday night, 6 to 8:30. You can find details on it on portland.gov. Just do PCCEP. You're welcome, Dan
Make some
Handelwoman.
popcorn.
Make some popcorn. I don't know. I'm not sure what the agenda is. So yeah, no. I don't think there's a CBPA on Wednesday. So one way or another, there's no dinner involved. But so I do know that's coming up. I have not looked at the city council agendas, but by the time this airs, there should only be one city council session left for Thursday, I think.
Mhm.
Um,
Oh, the committees are starting up, the new ones.
yeah, they had some working sessions over the last week, but the new committees start this week.
I think actually this week might be the end of the old ones, and then the
Okay.
week after. But it's like, "Oh, this is gonna get real interesting."
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I'm hoping it works out the way that's intended. I understand that there was frustration of having too many committees and the counselors being frayed across them all, but also the structure of them, you can actually have co-chairs run something and then have staff attend and feed upwards, right? Not everything has to be so hands-on, but they would have to restructure things for that to happen also. So I don't know that the combination of committees is going. I think that's going to obfuscate or nerf some of the focuses. And then the other problem is the committee of the whole still don't understand how the hell that works. That sounds like a city council meeting. So it'll be
I'm gonna
curious to see
nickname it
how it works.
Festivus.
The whole committee? What's the nickname?
I'm gonna nickname it Festivus.
Festivus. It's I am not a Seinfeld fan, so but sure, let's just they could just call it the whole committee of the Kvetch.
They
They can
could.
take a cue from us.
They
The
could.
whole Kvetch. That could actually be a restaurant name, the whole Kvetch.
I feel
Um,
like then folks like Weinstein and Ohendorf would think that the city's just not serious anymore, just not taking their job seriously. Like, they stole
hopefully
their name
people
from 2 clowns who do a weekly bitch session.
yeah, well, I mean, if there's any lasting legacy, that would be a great one. Anyway, I should probably start getting ready to leave. But speaking of legacy, I'll add this not kvetch, kind of a kudos. We went to the Hollywood Cemetery, and the last thing we stumbled on was Paul Rubens' grave,
Oh, shit.
and that was kind of sweet and lovely and sad.
Mhm.
But I spent more time taking pictures of the gorgeous ducks that they had than I did anything else, and also took 10 minutes out of the entire thing to talk, over some city stuff. Because why wouldn't I on a Monday while I'm kinda on vacation? So, why am I in LA, Kat? I'm glad you asked.
Because you
Highly
went to go watch a podcast and
live
left
taping of
me.
Strict Scrutiny, which
Yes.
I highly recommend. It was phenomenal. really enjoyable. They're such brilliant, brilliant people. John Lovett from Podcast America joined. They're all in the Crooked Media family of podcasting, which, if somebody wanted to bring this on officially. But, just
Hint,
saying
hint.
that, they were wonderful. It was such an enjoyable thing to hear 3 super intelligent people who are not droning middle-aged white men like myself talk about important things and have a great sense of humor and use the word "fuck" a whole lot. So, really fucking appreciated it, Kate, Melissa, and Leah. So, thank you, and I encourage all 37 of our regular listeners to check out Strict Scrutiny, so
No, it sounded like it was a very, really, really cool reason to get out of Portland. You just reminded me, though, when you said the word drone, I think Portland Police Bureau has been approved to buy a new drone from Axon. And with that, no.
and with that no, and with that, guess I know what our topic's gonna be next week once I get spun up on that, so anyway, thanks for meeting me, sitting out on a very lovely day before I get in a hot car and go sit on a hot plane and come back to what's the weather like?
It's actually sunny, but it's still chilly because, it's Portland. I'm sure your cat will be really happy to see you.
He will, he misses
Yeah,
me, so,
yeah. But I'm glad you got out because you needed a tiny vacation.
I did.
Yeah.
Alright. Thank
All
you.
right,
We'll
don't miss
talk
your flight.
soon. All right.
All right.
Take care.
Progress
Bye.
Portland is also on Facebook and Instagram, and we have event listings and updates on our website, progressportland.org. There's a content form on our website if you'd like to help out or have questions or comments. Our theme music is by the Portland band called